Donald Trump vows revenge with border tax against companies that outsource jobs. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to retaliate against U.S. companies planning to shift operations overseas in an early morning Twitter rant. Mr. Trump laid down the gauntlet at a campaign-style rally on Thursday after striking a deal with Carrier to keep about 1,100 jobs in Indiana in exchange for $7 million in state tax incentives over 10 years. Companies are not going to leave the United States anymore without consequences. Not going to happen, Trump told the cheering crowd. They can leave from state to state and negotiate deals with different states, but leaving the country will be very, very difficult. The president-elect did not offer details on how he planned to pressure companies to keep jobs in the United States, but in a series of tweets overnight he said that there will be a tax on our soon-to-be strong border of 35% for these companies wanting to sell their product, cars, AC units, etc., back across the border. The U.S. is going to substantially reduce taxes and regulations on businesses, but any business that leaves our country for another country. In an early Sunday morning tweet storm, which started about 7 a.m., the president-elect fired off 6 back-to-back posts on the topic, promising that the U.S. is going to substantially reduce taxes and regulations on businesses. Any business that leaves our country for another country, fires its employees, builds a new factory or plant in the other country, and then thinks it will sell its product back into the U.S. without retribution or consequence, is wrong. Trump tweeted. Fires its employees, builds a new factory or plant in the other country, and then thinks it will sell its product back into the U.S. One obvious lever Mr. Trump could use would be the removal of government contracts. That could make companies that work in defense, public works and public services especially vulnerable to retribution. Boeing, for example, would have to play ball if it wants its government contracts renewed, said one expert who requested anonymity. Without retribution or consequence is wrong. There will be a tax on our soon-to-be strong border of 35% for these companies. Mr. Trump coupled the threat with a promise to make the United States a better place for business by cutting taxes and streamlining regulations. There are a lot of plans already in place, said Hal Sirkin, a manufacturing expert at the Boston Consulting Group. Wanting to sell their product, cars, AC units, etc., back across the border. This tax will make leaving financially difficult, but CEOs are following the news closely and trying to figure out what all of this could mean for their businesses. Some companies said Mr. Trump's broadside was not sufficient to compel a change in plans, although Mr. Trump advised them via Twitter to please be forewarned prior to making a very expensive mistake. The United States is open for business. These companies are able to move between all 50 states with no tax or tariff being charged. Please be forewarned prior to making a very. Caterpillar announced in March 2015 it plans to shutter a plant in Joliet, Illinois, that makes oil pumps and valves and move 230 jobs to Mexico. We are continuing to execute on the previously announced plan on the stated timeline, said Matt Lavoie, a spokesman at Caterpillar. Expensive mistake. The United States is open for business. Food giant Mondelez International also signaled it would proceed with plans to relocate hundreds of jobs from an Oreo cookie plant in Chicago to Mexico. We have not had any contact with the new administration, said Mondelez spokeswoman Lori Guzzanati, adding that the Chicago baker remains an important part of our manufacturing network and that it continues to make Oreos at 3 U.S. factories. Not far from Mr. Trump's victory celebration at Carrier in Indiana, the industrial companies Rexnord, CTS Corporation and Manitowoc Food Service all plan to shift activities overseas from the Indianapolis area. Manitowoc opted to close a plant in Sellersburg, Indiana due to a decline in demand for soda drink dispensers, which had been made there, a spokesman said. Most of the 87 jobs are being moved to Tijuana, Mexico. The wind-down of the plant is proceeding according to our original schedule, Manitowoc spokesman Rich Sheffer said. Yesterday's speech did not include anything specific enough for us to reconsider our plans. Mr. Trump's plans drew mixed reviews, with United Auto Workers Union President Dennis Williams offering accolades. "We should use this opportunity to start running a commercial. If it's not built in America, don't buy it," Mr. Williams said. But the Alliance for American Manufacturing, an industry labor alliance, offered tempered praise. It noted that Friday's jobs report showed a decline of 4,000 manufacturing jobs in November and called for a crackdown on unsavory policies of trade partners. "While on balance, I believe this week's Carrier deal was worth doing, it isn't a practical job creation policy moving forward," Alliance President Scott Paul said. Senator Bernie Sanders said Mr. Trump's plans were a losing proposal, in part because Carrier will still transfer 1,000 jobs to Mexico. Mr. Trump failed to save all 2,100 jobs, as he promised, Senator Sanders said. Carrier took Trump hostage and won, Senator Sanders said in an op-ed in the Washington Post. Republican Sarah Palin also criticized her party colleague, saying the deal with socialism. "When government steps in arbitrarily with individual subsidies, favoring one business over others, it sets inconsistent, unfair, illogical precedent," she said. "It's a hallmark of corruption and socialism."